All over the news lately, I've been seeing reports about over 300,000 Black women who have been unemployed since Trump's return to office at the beginning of this year. And I am one of them. At the end of last year, I stepped out on faith, quit my job, sold my car, packed up all of my things, and moved to Guyana, South America. And I hadn't had a job for over 8 months. But please, please don't cry for me. Especially if you don't have anything to offer, like job opportunity, a referral, the hiring manager's email. Trust me, I understand that so many people are struggling. But what I think is missing from this conversation is that for some of us, for some of the Black women who have been fired, laid off, pushed out, or quit their jobs altogether, the decision to leave the workplace and not immediately re-enter the workforce was an unexpected but very intentional decision to divest from the work twice as hard to be considered half as good scenario corporate rat race that we were living in. It was a decision to divest from capitalism and even from the United States altogether. And don't get me wrong, I truly understand that most of us, while we may be happily unemployed, we are also one bad accident or one major health scare away from being homeless or bankrupt, and probably both. For example, I came across a video of a Black woman who was crashing out about the job market.
I'm actually finding myself getting triggered by the cutting room floor 55K conversation, because when people are like, who's gonna apply to that job? Bitch, me. I literally looked at it and was like, I might as fucking well. I've been unemployed for a fucking year. 55K is abysmal. Yeah, I have 15 years of experience. I worked at some really amazing companies and I can't find shit. I'm only not homeless because my brother is taking mercy on me and I've been burdening him since. Like I did. And I don't think y'all know, like, that's humiliating. This job market is humiliating. I'm a professional. I have a career. What the fuck was I doing even considering a job like that? This job market is ass.
And as I was watching this video, I felt so bad for this woman. Like, I can't imagine being willing to accept $55,000 salary in New York City for a job where you know you're going to be working overtime and stressed out. But then I had this moment and I realized that's me.
Bitch, me.
I too was considering a $55,000 job. I had interviewed for this job, and at the end of the interview, they said, oh, this is the salary. And I said, And I was going through the next round of interviews and the whole process. And the only reason why I considered it was because the job was completely remote. But even then, I slept on it. I decided, let me sleep on it. Let me take some time with it. And my spirit said no. Yes, I have been unemployed all year. And every time I think about checking my savings account, I get very nervous. But at the same time, I'm very blessed to have the privilege of time to wait for the perfect opportunity to arise and just fall in my lap. But also time to work on growing my own business, to work on my writing, my art, and all these other creative pursuits that I did not have the time for when I had a job. And so I just felt like I would be starting right at the very beginning, where I'm stressed and working for a job, underpaid, underappreciated, and don't have the time to work on the things I really love, and not have the time to explore entrepreneurial adventures. And then Tabitha Brown got her Black in Excellence ass on my internet screens and told us to let go of our entrepreneurial pursuits and go back to the traditional 9 to 5.
That this is not to discourage you, because I want us to be clear about that first, okay? You kind of been in this place for a long time, okay? Now listen, you got good ideas. Baby, you got good ideas. Your execution is not as good, okay? Your follow through, not as good. The ideas though are great. Entrepreneurship is not for everybody. And that doesn't mean it's not for you, but right now, these last few months, few years, you know what I'm talking about. Baby, it ain't been working for you, okay? And you're doing a lot of robbing Peter to pay Paul. Okay, you done got yourself in some mess, and it's time for you to get a job. You hear me? You just gonna need to get a job for a little while. Doesn't mean it won't ever work, but right now you need to go to work. You gonna need to get a job, okay? And then keep working towards it, but at least you'll have a job while you are pursuing that thing. But right now, you need to get a job, baby. All right? That's it. I love you.
I want to dive deeper into the political and historical context of this crisis. Then I want to share some stories about myself and other Black women who are unemployed or who have decided to leave the U.S. workforce altogether. And lastly, I want to share a bit of hope and some practical advice for any Black women out there struggling to find a job and what Black women are doing instead. First, I really feel like this is a recession indicator for a number of reasons. Reason one, Black women are the most educated group in the United States, but there's a rise in anti-intellectualism, anti-science, anti-facts even. We've seen the rollback of DEI programs, and I want to be clear that some of the media outlets report the rollback on DEI as if Black women are losing their jobs because we no longer have these affirmative action handouts. But in actuality, it's because Black women have shaped the industry of DEI, and they have integrated it into so many other industries, from the medical and healthcare industry to science and technology. Black women were the ones coining the terms and leading the workshops. We were co-chairing the task force and starting the committees in the wake of the George Floyd uprisings. Now, with the rollback of DEI programs, this industry, this space that Black women have literally carved out for ourselves is just disappearing. And the high-paying jobs that we once had in HR departments or in business development groups or nonprofits are just simply no longer there. They're just poof. We've also seen the defunding of federal agencies and programs where Black women, and particularly Black people in the DMV area, were able to experience upward mobility through those job opportunities. Offices like USAID, fair housing programs, healthcare centers, and the entire Department of Education are under threat. This issue is compounded when you realize that even the Black women and the people of color who were able to keep their federal jobs are now working in environments that do not value DEI principles. And so these offices are not only becoming defunded and people are experiencing job insecurity, but they're also becoming very hostile towards women, and particularly Black women. So what does it mean when a country not only doesn't invest money in education, but is specifically devaluing education? Because if the most educated group in America is having trouble finding a job, that is a massive change in culture. The second reason that I want to bring up is Black women are the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs in the United States. We've seen banks, venture capital firms, and even corporations like Target highlight Black women-owned businesses in the wake of the 2020 George Floyd uprisings. One article that I was reading mentioned that 500,000 Black women left the workforce back in 2020 and still have not re-entered. And I think part of that might be because of the small businesses that these women are creating. Target and Tabitha Brown were a part of this cultural way of promoting Black women-owned businesses. And so that's why it's quite surprising to see Tabitha Brown bring her Black and excellence ass onto our internet screens to tell us to go back to traditional jobs after she has been the epitome of entrepreneurship for so many Black women. At this point, Auntie Tab might be a CIA operative, paid to be the internet's bill collector. And then I have to remind myself that Tabitha Brown's husband is a former police officer, oink oink, so it kind of makes sense. This whole rhetoric around where are the Black women? The Black women are not working. Black women need to get traditional jobs. It's a crisis. It's reminding me about this point in time, 1918, Greenville, South Carolina, where the city literally tried to make it illegal for Black women to be unemployed. You see, during World War I, the federal government started giving out cash assistance to the wives of soldiers, and this included Black women. And so for the first time, had a little economic freedom. And instead of working for white families, doing laundry, childcare, cooking, cleaning, these Black women decided to stay home and take care of their own kids because their husbands were out in the war. The local white communities in Greenville, South Carolina were so upset. It was a crisis for them. They started calling these Black women unpatriotic because how dare you? In a time of war, why would you not leave your kids at home and come work for me and take care of my kids while I pay you literal dust? So the city in South Carolina literally wanted to give out work permit cards where it would say the person's name, where they worked, the hours that they worked, and stuff like that so that they can prove that they are actually working and not, I don't know, taking care of their families. And if we fast forward to 1996, when Bill Clinton introduced the welfare reform, for the first time ever, people who received welfare assistance had to prove that they were working. The program was pitched as a pathway to upward mobility, but it actually had the opposite effect. And shout out to my mama, because I remember her telling me that the welfare system is actually incentivizing people to not work, to not get higher paying jobs. I remember being 10 years old and my mom explaining this to me that even though it would definitely help with the family expenses, she did not want to get onto welfare because she peeped it. She saw in order to receive welfare benefits that would feed your family, you had to work a certain amount of hours, but you couldn't make more than a certain amount of money. Otherwise, you're not considered to be impoverished, right? So you were forced to take low-paying jobs, poverty wages, basically slavery, until people would be stuck in this loop of the job that I am currently working, I cannot make enough money to feed my family. But if I try to get a better job, which that better job may still not be enough to feed my family, and I would lose the benefits, the welfare benefits that are actually feeding my family. So in the end, it was just incentivizing people to take on low-paying wage labor. And so sometimes when I hear about corporations and these mega news organizations talking about the crisis of Black women not working, what I hear is a backlash of why aren't you taking the low-paying jobs that we are offering you? We have fired you, laid you off, pushed you out of these high-paying jobs, and we created all of these amazing jobs that pay you slavery wages. So why are you not grateful, Black women? Why? From the perspective of a white America, yeah, this is a crisis. If you're thinking like a billionaire in a mega corporation, oh yeah, this is a crisis. Why are these Black women not re-entering the workforce? I think the key part of all of these headlines, all of these conversations is that it's not that they didn't care when we lost our job at the beginning of the year. No, what they're really concerned about is the fact that we have not taking up, we have not applied, we have not re-entered the workforce in these lower paying jobs. I think the unemployment crisis is designed by billionaires to to punish employees for all of the benefits that we gained during COVID. Our remote work benefits, our healthcare benefits, our PTO, and demanding higher wages and just a living wage, a wage that keeps up with the cost of living. I feel that so many of these corporations, these employers, these billionaires are upset, are so upset because they thought that by pushing us out of these jobs, we would be forced to take on the slavery wages, and that has not happened. Black women, where are all the black women? If you're looking around wondering, where are all the black women? Why are they not working? Well, the black women are living on less and we're doing less. And of course, that's a problem. That is a crisis in an economy that is based off of overconsumption. The black women are starting small businesses. We are bartering. We're building our side hustles and making it our main source of income. And that is a problem. It's a crisis for an economy that favors mega corporations. In this next part of the video, I wanted to share some stories and anecdotes about black women that I know who have been unemployed this year. And some of them are still happily unemployed. So one of my friends works at a federal office in Washington, D.C. And when Trump got into office, she immediately felt a shift in her workplace. The environment just became way more bro-y, way like a fraternity. A lot of her male coworkers just felt way more comfortable doing and saying things that they would never have done the year before. She clocked it and immediately started applying for jobs. Started looking for jobs, and I think there was like maybe a week or 2 weeks between when she left one workplace and moved into a new position. This is the usual scenario. Most black people feel like you cannot quit one job unless you have another job lined up. But for so many of us, we've been backing away from those old stories because they haven't really helped us. Later on, she found out that her coworkers at the previous job office were laid off. So she had narrowly escaped one of the biggest federal layoffs of this year. And that's usually how it goes. I think that many employers, many economists thought that these black women were going to leave one workplace and within 2 weeks, a month, 2 months, 3 months, they would immediately start another job. But I know a story of another woman who was laid off during the massive federal layoffs, and she just decided to retire early, and now she's bopping around the world as a digital nomad, living off of her retirement savings and her freelance income. And I think she's like 55 or something. I have another friend who, at the beginning of this year, she nearly suffered a heart attack. Her job had her stressed out, overworked, unpaid, so much so that it was affecting her health. After nearly suffering a heart attack, she did take a week off from work and then started to go right back to work again. Eventually, she realized that she needed a real vacation, like not just a couple of days here or 1 week. She wanted to take a full 2 weeks vacation. Her job told her no. They offered her 1 week instead of 2, and for her, that just wasn't going to cut it. She put in her PTO request. It got denied, but she said, y'all gonna have to prepare the others. Her job's response was, prepare to not have a job when you come back. So she called their bluff. She went on vacation, and when she came back, they wanted her to start immediately after coming back from vacation. Well, she was a bit jet lagged. She took a day or two. When she got back from vacation, she went into her office. They offered her her job back, but the work environment became so incredibly hostile. Her manager had such resentment for her. Suddenly, the job had these new policies that seemed to specifically target her. Eventually, they made it just an incredibly difficult place to work, and they fired her. For 6 months now, she's been living off of unemployment income and her side hustle. And she has no plans to re-enter the US workforce. She has no plans to get a traditional job. She plans to make her side hustle into her main source of income. From her perspective, getting another job would just be putting herself right back in those stressful positions that nearly cost her her life at the beginning of this year. Yes, she's still struggling. She's making much less money. And being an entrepreneur, especially a new one, it means that, yeah, you're going to owe some people money. You might be behind on your bills, but all of that is worth it if you have the freedom and the peace of mind and the health. All of that is actually much better than working at a job that is literally draining your life. I also have another story of two of my friends who, at the beginning of this year, were both unemployed. One friend quit her job and decided to move to a new city. The other friend has been unemployed since last year because she recently had a baby. Now, the friend with the baby found a really great remote job. She can work from home, it pays all of her bills, but she is a single mom and she's struggling with childcare. The other friend doesn't want to get a traditional job. She's focused on growing her freelance business, and so they decided to move into a 2-bedroom house. The friend that is working is paying the rent, all of the bills. The friend that is not working is helping out with childcare and cooking and just the regular maintenance of a house. And it works for them. No, this is not the nuclear family. No, they're not a lesbian couple. They are just two women who've decided to work together to create a bartering relationship that meets both of their needs. And they've even expanded this, and they're talking to other couples as well as single moms who also need childcare help. We can structure our lives and our communities in a way that works for us. And it doesn't always have to look like the nuclear American family that has been shoved down our throat for so many years. I'm happy to share my own story of how I have been happily unemployed for most of this year. But I kind of lied at the beginning of this video. You see, while for most of the year I have been happily unemployed, I actually found a really amazing job offer that I just could not pass up. What makes this job so amazing is that it is a contract temporary position. So after I've done my work, after the contract is up and the report is turned in, I can go back to living my happily unemployed life. This job pays well enough to where even though it's temporary, financially speaking, I'll be good for at least the next 6 months. In this job, I'm doing work that is deeply interesting, fulfilling, meaningful. It has a good mix of challenge and fun. My manager is literally one of the most amazing human beings I have met. And my colleagues and my coworkers are some of the brightest stars in the galaxy. I've been so blessed to find this opportunity. I could not have passed it up. And it was through my professional network that I found this opportunity. A friend of mine literally gave me the email of the hiring manager. I emailed him, he got back to me the same day. The next day I interviewed, and the day after that, I got the job. And what's so great is that a friend of mine helped me get this job, and then when we were hiring for the 3 employees that I would be managing, I was able to put another Black woman on to this job. I think what is happening is that for so many Black women, we peeped it during the first Trump presidency. No one is coming to save us. No one is going to look out for us or keep us safe. So we've decided to do it for ourselves. We are changing our lives for ourselves. Black women are starting their own businesses. They're taking on contract positions, part-time work, or even seasonal employment in order to make sure that there's a good work-life balance between working hard and also not jeopardizing our health or peace of mind. And to do this, we've needed to pull back. We've needed to adjust our budgets. I eat like once a day. Black women are downsizing. We're no longer buying the luxury cars or the big houses with the crazy mortgage rates. We're letting go of materialism and focusing on our experiences. We're focusing on healing and being in community with each other. So many Black women are leaving Black excellence behind. No longer will we be working twice as hard to be considered half as good. We're leaving the corporate rat race and focusing on building our communities, focusing on our families. We're focusing on forms of success that breathe life into us rather than drain energy from us. Black women are house hacking and bartering. We're exchanging okra and fresh eggs for childcare and community support. We're engaging in freelancing and gig work, and we're not afraid to take entrepreneurial risks. We're investing not just in stocks, but in ourselves. Most of all, we are getting in community with one another. I am in a community of over 26,000 Black women who have either made the decision that they want to move abroad and leave the United States, or, like me, they have already left the United States and have no plans to re-enter. It's called Exodus Summit, and every year there is a conference. So when I think about the 300,000 Black women that have left the US workforce, the US workforce is the key word here for me, because I know that a good 25,000 to 50,000 of those numbers could very well be Black women who have just decided to leave the US altogether. So if you are a Black woman who is struggling with the job market, with unemployment, with homelessness or food insecurity, I need you to reach out to the closest Black woman next to you and ask her for help. Be honest about your situation, be honest about your needs and how bad things are for you. Don't be afraid to reach out for help. Don't be afraid to use the resources in your community. Because the thing about it is that once you have used those resources and you get yourself back on your feet, you are in a better position to be able to help the next Black woman do the exact same thing. Toni Morrison says, if you are free, it is your duty to free someone else. Rashida Dow left a job that, from my perspective, seems like it was literally killing her, mentally and physically draining her health. Stephanie Perry left her job as a pharmacy tech, and now both of those women are the leaders of the Exodus Summit community. Tiffany, the budgetnista, went from a teacher that was just drowning in debt to budgeting and investing her way into financial freedom and financial wholeness. And she has taught tons of women how to do the same for themselves. I certainly would not have been able to live my best unemployed life this year if it wasn't for the savings, the practical savings tips that Tiffany has shared with me when I was a part of the Budgetnista community. Libria Jones is a woman that has been teaching other women how to get remote work since before the pandemic, and she's continuing to do that. When I quit my job, I had no idea that I would be taking an 8-month sabbatical. I didn't really know what was next. But this year has been so amazing, and I've felt so incredibly blessed for every single day. And I owe it all to these women and the communities that they have created. Women like Adelia Borshade, who I don't think I would have an investment account without her, or Krishan from Black Sick Global. These women have freed themselves. They figured out a way to leave the corporate space behind and live the life of their dreams. And they are giving practical advice on how to do the same. And some of that advice is free 99 on YouTube. Like, I've decided to start vlogging my move abroad journey because somewhere out there, there's a Black woman that wants to move back to her parents' country of beautiful Guyana, and I'm happy to share resources and advice on how to do it. I hope this gives hope to the Black women who are struggling, especially the one that I mentioned earlier in this video. The bottom line is your professional network is so important. We've heard people say this, but generally, your community, the people around you, is so incredibly important. In my next life, I can't wait to be a Black woman. I don't want to be anything else. Black women and the communities that we have created are the most supportive, the most encouraging, the most forgiving group of people on this planet. I am not worried about the 300,000 Black women who are unemployed. If they are living in community with other Black women, if they are willing to ask for help, and if they are willing to help others, we'll be all right.